Hello and welcome to day 145 in the Not Alone Today chronological Bible reading plan. Today we are in 1 Kings chapters 20 all the way to chapter 22 verse 50. And we are still in the contemporary English version.
Chapter 20. King Ben-Hadad of Syria called his army together. He was joined by 32 other kings with their horses and chariots. And together they marched to Samaria and attacked. Ben-Hadad sent a messenger to tell King Ahab of Israel, "Ahab, give me your silver and your gold, your wives and your strongest sons."
"Your Majesty," Ahab replied, "everything I have is yours, including me."
Later, Ben-Hadad sent another messenger to say to Ahab, "I already told you to give me your silver and gold, your wives and your children, but tomorrow at this time I will send my officials into your city to search your palace and the houses of your officials. They will take everything else that you own."
Ahab called a meeting with the leaders of Israel and said, "Ben-Hadad is causing real trouble. He told me to give him my wives and children as well as my silver and gold, and I agreed."
"Don't listen to him," they answered. "You don't have to do what he says."
So Ahab sent someone to tell Ben-Hadad, "Your Majesty, I'll give you my silver and gold and even my wives and children, but I won't let you have anything else."
When Ben-Hadad got his answer, he replied, "I'll completely destroy Samaria. There won't even be enough of it left for my soldiers to carry back in their hands. If I don't do it, I pray that the gods will punish me terribly."
Ahab then answered, "Ben-Hadad, don't brag before the fighting even begins. Wait and see if you live through it."
Meanwhile, Ben-Hadad and the other kings had been drinking in their tents. But when Ahab's reply came, he ordered his soldiers to prepare to attack Samaria, and they all got ready.
At that very moment, a prophet ran up to Ahab and said, "You can see that Ben-Hadad's army is very strong, but the Lord has promised to help you defeat them today. Then you will know that the Lord is in control."
"Who will fight the battle?" Ahab asked.
The prophet answered, "The young bodyguards who serve the district officials."
"But who will lead them into the battle?" Ahab asked.
"You will," the prophet replied.
So Ahab called together the 232 young soldiers and the 7,000 troops in Israel's army, and he got them ready to fight the Syrians.
At noon, King Ahab and his Israelite army marched out of Samaria, with the young soldiers in front.
King Ben-Hadad of Syria and the 32 kings with him were drunk when the scouts he had sent out ran up to his tent shouting, "We just now saw soldiers marching out of Samaria."
"Take them alive," Ben-Hadad ordered. "I don't care if they have come out to fight or to surrender."
The young soldiers led Israel's troops into battle, and each of them attacked and killed an enemy soldier. The rest of the Syrian army turned and ran, and the Israelites went after them. Ben-Hadad and some others escaped on horses, but Ahab and his soldiers followed them and captured their horses and chariots.
Ahab and Israel's army crushed the Syrians.
Later, the prophet went back and warned Ahab, "Ben-Hadad will attack you again next spring. Build up your troops and make sure you have some good plans."
Meanwhile, Ben-Hadad's officials went to him and explained, "Israel's gods are mountain gods. We fought Israel's army in the hills, and that's why they defeated us. But if we fight them on flat land, there is no way we can lose. Here is what you should do. First, get rid of those 32 kings and put army commanders in their places. Then get more soldiers, horses, and chariots so your army will be as strong as it was before. We'll fight Israel's army on flat land and wipe them out." Ben-Hadad agreed and did what they suggested.
In the spring, Ben-Hadad got his army together, and they marched to the town of Aphek to attack Israel. The Israelites also prepared to fight. They marched out to meet the Syrians, and the two armies camped across from each other. The Syrians covered the whole area, but the Israelites looked like two little flocks of goats.
The prophet went to Ahab and said, "The Syrians think the Lord is a God of the hills and not of the valleys. So he has promised to help you defeat their powerful army. Then you will know that the Lord is in control."
For 7 days, the two armies stayed in their camps, facing each other. Then on the 7th day, the fighting broke out, and before sunset, the Israelites had killed 100,000 Syrian troops. The rest of the Syrian army ran back to Aphek. But the town wall fell and crushed 27,000 of them.
Ben-Hadad also escaped to Aphek and hid in the back room of a house. His officials said, "Your Majesty, we've heard that Israel's kings keep their agreements. We will wrap sackcloth around our waists, put ropes around our heads, and ask Ahab to let you leave."
They dressed in sackcloth and put ropes on their heads. Then they went to Ahab and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad asked you to let him leave."
"Is he still alive?" Ahab asked. "Ben-Hadad is like a brother to me."
Ben-Hadad's officials were trying to figure out what Ahab was thinking, and when he said brother, they quickly replied, "You're right, you and Ben-Hadad are like brothers."
"Go get him," Ahab said.
When Ben-Hadad came out, Ahab had him climb up into his chariot.
Ben-Hadad said, "I'll give back the towns my father took from your father, and you can have shops in Damascus, just as my father had in Samaria."
Ahab replied, "If you do these things, I'll let you go free." Then they signed a peace treaty, and Ahab let Ben-Hadad go.
About this time, the Lord commanded a prophet to say to a friend, "Hit me." But the friend refused. And the prophet told him, "You disobeyed the Lord, and as soon as you walk away, a lion will kill you." The friend left, and suddenly, a lion killed him.
The prophet found someone else and said, "Hit me." So this man beat him up.
The prophet left and put a bandage over his face to disguise himself. Then he went and stood beside the road, waiting for Ahab to pass by.
When Ahab went by, the prophet shouted, "Your Majesty, right in the heat of battle, someone brought a prisoner to me and told me to guard him. He said, if the prisoner got away, I would either be killed or forced to pay 3,000 pieces of silver. But I got busy doing other things, and the prisoner escaped."
Ahab answered, "You will be punished, just as you have said."
The man quickly tore the bandage off his face, and Ahab saw that he was one of the prophets. And the prophet said, "The Lord told you to kill Ben-Hadad, but you let him go. Now you will die in his place, and your people will die in place of his people."
Ahab went back to Samaria, angry and depressed.
Chapter 21. Naboth owned a vineyard in Jezreel near King Ahab's palace.
One day Ahab said, "Naboth, your vineyard is near my palace. Give it to me so I can turn it into a vegetable garden. I'll give you a better vineyard or pay whatever you want for yours."
Naboth answered, "This vineyard has always been in my family. I won't let you have it."
So Ahab went home angry and depressed because of what Naboth had told him. He lay on his bed, just staring at the wall and refusing to eat a thing.
Jezebel, his wife, came in and asked, "What's wrong? Why won't you eat?"
"I asked Naboth to sell me his vineyard or to let me give him a better one," Ahab replied, "and he told me I couldn't have it."
"Aren't you the king of Israel?" Jezebel asked. "Get out of bed and eat something. Don't worry, I'll get Naboth's vineyard for you."
Jezebel wrote a letter to each of the leaders of the town where Naboth lived. In the letters, she said, "Call everyone together and tell them to go without eating today. When they come together, give Naboth a seat at the front. Get 2 liars to sit facing him and swear that Naboth has cursed God and the king. Then take Naboth outside and stone him to death." She signed Ahab's name to the letters and sealed them with his seal. Then she sent them to the town leaders.
After receiving her letters, they did exactly what she had asked. They told the people that it was a day to go without eating, and when they all came together, they seated Naboth at the front. 2 liars came in and sat across Naboth. Then they accused him of cursing God and the king. So the people dragged Naboth outside and stoned him to death.
The leaders of Jezreel sent a message back to Jezebel that said, "Naboth is dead."
As soon as Jezebel got their message, she told Ahab, "Now you can have the vineyard Naboth refused to sell. He's dead." Ahab got up and went to take over the vineyard.
The Lord said to Elijah the prophet, "King Ahab of Israel is in Naboth's vineyard right now, taking it over. Go tell him that I say, Ahab, you murdered Naboth and took his property. And so in the very spot where dogs licked up Naboth's blood, they will lick up your blood."
When Elijah found him, Ahab said, "So, my enemy, you found me at last."
Elijah answered, "Yes, I did. Ahab, you have managed to do everything the Lord hates. Now you will be punished. You and every man and boy in your family will die, whether slave or free. Your whole family will be wiped out, just like the families of King Jeroboam and King Baasha. You've made the Lord very angry by sinning and causing the Israelites to sin. And as for Jezebel, dogs will eat her body there in Jezreel. Dogs will also eat the bodies of your relatives who die in town, and vultures will eat the bodies of those who die in the country.
When Ahab heard this, he tore his clothes in sorrow and wore sackcloth day and night. He was depressed and refused to eat.
Sometime later, the Lord said, Elijah, do you see how sorry Ahab is for what he did? I won't punish his family while he's still alive. I will wait until his son is king.
No one was more determined than Ahab to disobey the Lord, and Jezebel encouraged him. Worst of all, he had worshipped idols just as the Amorites had done before the Lord forced them out of the land and gave it to Israel.
Chapter 22. For the next 3 years there was peace between Israel and Syria. During the 3rd year, King Jehoshaphat of Judah went to visit King Ahab of Israel.
Ahab asked his officials, "Why haven't we tried to get Ramoth in Gilead back from the Syrians? It belongs to us." Then he asked Jehoshaphat, "Would you go to Ramoth with me and attack the Syrians?"
Just tell me what to do, Jehoshaphat answered. My army and horses are at your command. But first, let's ask the Lord.
Ahab sent for about 400 prophets and asked, "Should I attack the Syrians in Ramoth?"
Yes, the prophets answered. The Lord will help you defeat them.
But Jehoshaphat said, "Just to make sure, is there another of the Lord's prophets we can ask?"
We could ask Micaiah, son of Imlah, Ahab said. But I hate Micaiah. He always has bad news for me.
"Don't say that," Jehoshaphat replied. Then Ahab sent someone to bring Micaiah as soon as possible.
All this time, Ahab and Jehoshaphat were dressed in their royal robes and were seated on their thrones at the threshing place near the gates of Samaria. They were listening to the prophets tell them what the Lord had said.
Zedekiah, son of Chenaanah, was one of the prophets. He had made some horns out of iron and shouted, "Ahab, the Lord says you will attack the Syrians like a bull with iron horns and wipe them out."
All the prophets agreed that Ahab should attack the Syrians at Ramoth, and they promised that the Lord would help him defeat them.
Meanwhile, the messenger who went to get Micaiah whispered, "Micaiah, all the prophets have good news for Ahab. Now, go and say the same thing."
I'll say whatever the living Lord tells me to say, Micaiah replied.
Then Micaiah went to Ahab, and Ahab asked, "Micaiah, should I attack the Syrians at Ramoth?"
Yes, Micaiah answered. The Lord will help you defeat them.
"Micaiah, I have told you over and over to tell me the truth." Ahab shouted, "What does the Lord really say?"
He answered, In a vision I saw Israelite soldiers walking around in the hills like sheep without a shepherd to guide them. The Lord said, This army has no leader. They should go home and not fight.
Ahab turned to Jehoshaphat and said, "I told you it would bring bad news."
Micaiah replied, Listen to this. I also saw the Lord seated on his throne with every creature in heaven and earth in heaven gathered around him. The Lord asked, Who can trick Ahab and make him go to Ramoth where he will be killed? They talked about it for a while, then finally a spirit came forward and said to the Lord, I can trick Ahab. How? The Lord asked. I'll make Ahab's prophets lie to him. Good, the Lord replied. Now go and do it. This is exactly what has happened, Ahab. The Lord made all your prophets lie to you, and he knows you will soon be destroyed.
Zedekiah walked up to Micaiah and slapped him on the face. Then he asked, "Do you really think the Lord will speak to you and not to me?"
Micaiah answered, You'll find out on the day you have to hide in the back room of some house.
Ahab shouted, "Arrest Micaiah! Take him to Prince Joash and Governor Ammon of Samaria. Tell them to put him in prison and to give him nothing but bread and water until I come back safely."
Micaiah said, If you do come back, I was wrong about what the Lord wanted me to say. Then he told the crowd, Don't forget what I said.
Ahab and Jehoshaphat led their armies to Ramoth in Gilead. Before they went into battle, Ahab said, "Jehoshaphat, I'll disguise myself, but you wear your royal robe." Then Ahab disguised himself and went into battle.
The king of Syria had ordered his 32 chariot commanders to attack only Ahab. So when they saw Jehoshaphat in his robe, they thought he was Ahab and started to attack him. But when Jehoshaphat shouted out to them, they realized it wasn't Ahab and they left him alone.
However, during the fighting, a soldier shot an arrow without even aiming, and it hit Ahab where the two pieces of his armor joined. He shouted to his chariot driver, "I've been hit! Get me out of here!"
The fighting lasted all day, with Ahab propped up in his chariot so he could see the Syrian troops. He bled so much that the bottom of the chariot was covered with blood, and by evening, he was dead.
As the sun was going down, someone in Israel's army shouted to the others, "Retreat! Go back home!"
Ahab's body was taken to Samaria and buried there. Some workers washed his chariot near a spring in Samaria, and prostitutes washed themselves in his blood. Dogs licked Ahab's blood off the ground, just as the Lord had warned.
Everything else Ahab did while he was king, including the towns he strengthened and the palace he built and furnished with ivory, is written in the history of the kings of Israel. Ahab died, and his son Ahaziah became king.
Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, became king of Judah in Ahab's 4th year as king of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king, and he ruled from Jerusalem for 25 years. His mother was Azubah, daughter of Shili.
Jehoshaphat obeyed the Lord, just as his father Asa had done, and during his rule he was at peace with the king of Israel.
He got rid of the rest of the prostitutes from the local shrines, but he did not destroy the shrines, and they were still used as places for offering sacrifices.
Everything else Jehoshaphat did while he was king, including his brave deeds and military victories, is written in the history of the kings of Judah.
The country of Edom had no king at the time, so a lower official ruled the land.
Jehoshaphat had seagoing ships built to sail to Ophir for gold, but they were wrecked at Ezion-Geber and never sailed. Ahaziah, son of Ahab, offered to let his sailors go with Jehoshaphat's sailors, but Jehoshaphat refused.
Jehoshaphat died and was buried beside his ancestors in Jerusalem, and his son Jehoram became king. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So today we read 3 chapters 20, 21, and 22 in 1 Kings. In chapter 20, we read about the attack of Syria against the Israelites. And the Lord, in a bid to make a point to King Ahab of his lordship over Israel, remember, up until this moment, from Jeroboam to every king they've had to Omri, none of them has served God in a way that was pleasing to him. None of them have ruled like David. And Ahab had the chance to change that narrative, but rather, he continued to sink himself deeper. And so in chapter 20, we saw how the Syrians came, 33 kings in all. King Ben-Hadad of Syria with 32 other kings came against Israel. And yet, in fact, in the narrative, Ahab himself was ready to turn himself over. But God still granted them victory, as he has spoken through the mouths of his prophets. Of course, the Syrians thought that it was because they attacked on a mountain, and the gods of the Israelites are mountain gods. And so they waited for a full year till the next spring and came again and fought them again. And yet again, as the Lord spoke through his prophets, Israel won, just to make that point to Ahab. But yet, Ahab never followed the Lord God of Israel. And consequently, the prophets condemned Ahab. And then in chapter 21, we read of the story of Naboth, who owned a vineyard. And Ahab wanted this vineyard for himself, amongst other things, to make his anger and depression to be alleviated. But rather, Naboth's refusal even made him more angry and more depressed. But Jezebel schemed up a way to eventually murder Naboth and have a husband, King Ahab, to take over the vineyard. But while King Ahab was doing that, the Lord spoke to Elijah, who brought a word of condemnation and judgment upon Ahab. In chapter 22, we read of prophet Micaiah, who warns Ahab about another impending disaster In this dramatic prophecy, if you will, Ahab has first of all brought 400 prophets to prophesy whether or not he should go to fight this battle alongside Jehoshaphat. And they all said yes. But Prophet Micaiah was brought in, and he had a different message and gave the message that the Lord has given him, including an explanation for why all the other 400 prophets said yes. Indeed, as Prophet Micaiah prophesied, Ahab died in that battle. And then in the concluding part of the chapter, we also read of how Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, also died, and his own son would also take over in the southern kingdom of Judah. So that's the 3 chapters we covered. Let's go back to chapter 20. What stood out to you, Anu, my love?
20, I think it's the start that stood out to me. It's quite curious. Like, your enemy is asking you for your silver and your gold, your wives and your strongest sons. And you said, everything, I can give you everything. It wasn't until the person now said, the enemy now said, I want to search your palace and take everything else that you own, that you thought, actually, let me ask my elders and see what they think.
Yeah.
Why would he be ready to give his wives and his children? And the wives would include Jezebel, isn't it?
Apparently.
Oh, gosh.
And the gods they are worshipping, so Baal, Asherah, Molech, these are gods that would naturally just demand human sacrifices at will. And so the life of humans in that sense is not really that valuable. More so to the king, who gets to just hand over anyone he wants, either to death by his own sword or by an enemy's sword, which is quite unfortunate, yeah. For me, yes, I think the chapter is quite striking. Of course, all the 3 chapters flow into each other, but I was also held aback by the initial response of King Ahab. What struck me is how God, on 2 occasions, almost a year apart, gave him such an unimaginable victory. I mean, the kind of victory that he has no right winning, the Lord gave him, and yet he still did not trust in the God of Israel. It's just, it's another level of stubbornness. Yeah.
Something else stood out to me in that chapter, where that a prophet came and told him came to Ahab and said in verse 13 that the Lord has promised to help you defeat them today, that you will know that the Lord is in control. Ahab's next question was quite baffling. He asked the prophet, who will fight the battle? The prophet said, oh yeah, the young bodyguards. And then he asked another irrelevant question, but who will lead them into battle?
Yeah.
Who's meant to lead the people into battle apart from the king?
Yeah, I wondered the same.
It's crazy. So after the battle, and God told him he would win, the prophet came back and warned Ahab that Ben-Hadad will attack him again next spring, that Ahab should build his troops and make sure he has some good plans. That's the warning, the message given to him. But what did Ahab do? He saw some people dressed in sackcloth and they put ropes in their heads and they said, oh, your servant Ben-Hadad has asked you to let him live. And Ahab said, oh, is that life? It's like a brother to me. And the crazy thing he does. And then when he saw Ben-Hadad, he said, oh, we're like brothers. And then he signed peace treaty and let Ben-Hadad go. Who does that? Who signs a peace treaty with their enemy, having been told that the person would attack them next spring? He must be dealing with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But this is the person that you fought not too long ago, and you're calling him your brother. How? Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
And then when God sent a prophet to say, oh, you disobeyed, then he went back to Samaria. That's Ahab, angry and depressed. I don't understand him. And I think that's how God doesn't understand our actions sometimes and the decisions we make. We know clearly what he's told us, but we'll do the opposite. And then we'll say, oh, what is this happening to me? Knowing that we disobeyed.
Yeah. He's a curious character. And so are we.
Yeah.
Chapter 21, anything stood out to you?
Apart from Jezebel's part, what stood out to me was what the letter sent to the leaders of the town. the letter reads that Naboth will be implicated in a thing that will lead to his death. And all the leaders of the town, all of them agreed and did exactly as Jezebel has arranged. And then they said to Jezebel, oh, Naboth is dead. And I wondered, like, was there not one sane person within them? Yeah, it's just amazing that all the leaders did that to Naboth without even checking to see what his offense was or what he did. Well, maybe they're all afraid of Jezebel and didn't want to put it to her.
Yeah, it's
That his life or their lives.
it's a picture of just how much darkness reigned in that region, vis-a-vis the occasional sparks of light that we see in Judah, in the southern kingdom. But yeah, the story of Naboth, I've always found it to be quite tragic, especially because, I mean, he didn't have to die, except for this wickedness that is coming from high places. And yes, God fought for him, but after his death, that also kind of tugs at my heart. I wish that something was done such that Ahab was judged and condemned, and Jezebel, and yes, they got what was coming for them eventually, but I wish it was done just in time for Naboth to continue to pass on this family inheritance to his children and to their children. Yeah.
In chapter 22, I like how Jehoshaphat, basically everything Jehoshaphat did in 22 stood out to me. First, when Ahab asked him whether they should go to Ramoth and attack the Syrians, it was Jehoshaphat that said, oh, let's ask the Lord. When the 400 prophets said they should go, it was also Jehoshaphat that said, is there another prophet of the Lord's? And then it was also Jehoshaphat, when Ahab would want Jehoshaphat to die in this place, Jehoshaphat quickly shouted out to them, and that was when they realized it was not Ahab, and they left him alone. His actions are quite instructive.
Yes, I mean, Jehoshaphat is quite an interesting character. We're going to see more about him from Second Chronicles accounts when we look at it, I think, on day 146. But the part that you mentioned about, him almost dying in the place of Ahab because of Ahab's scheme, in some sense, just speaks to collateral damage that comes with ungodly alliances. I still think there is a huge question mark around Jehoshaphat wanting to even partner with Ahab, with all that we know of Ahab and all that we will know of Jehoshaphat in tomorrow's reading. They are quite a pair that shouldn't be seen together in that sense. But yeah, the message that is being passed across is being passed across. But yeah, when we turn the page and read more about Jehoshaphat, I think some of this would also come into clearer context for us to process his story through. And so join us on day 146 as we continue in the narrative. We will be crossing back to Second Chronicles and then picking it up where we left off in that book and retelling some of the stories that we have seen in Kings in more details. But till then, just remember,
You're not alone.
today, God bless you.